Hello, Spiros here from the Retro Games Couple, and I'm here to talk about my second Godot project as I'm beginning to learn the language. So for my second project, I decided to make a Pong game for two reasons. One, because it's something very simple that I wanted to make since forever, and two, I just needed something to test a couple of things that I was learning about. For example, scene change, the global auto-loading singleton, and I want something to be playable that I will enjoy play, so let's see it first in action. So, this is the main screen. It just has three buttons that you choose the difficulty. You are on the left always, the CPU is on the right always. I also have sound playing from a sound singleton. And it finishes at 11 if I remember well. It's been like 6 months I made this. Now I'm working on another project let's say a roguelike Eye of the Beholder like crawler. Old school, but I really want to learn some more things about the engine before I move on to bigger projects. I think it's very important that when you want to learn something, start from very feasible goals. You should not go straight to, oh, look, I will make Doom or I will make Call of Duty or I don't know, whatever is big these days. I have no idea. Fallout 5. You have to create some very credible, feasible little goals and work to them so that you also feel complete. You have this sense of completeness. Yeah, as you can see, I have programmed so that the ball goes faster in each direction. Allergies. As I was saying, it's not just about feeling complete, it's about doing steps. It's very important that you do steps towards a goal, or else you will get lost. Imagine like this is the forest of creation, you have to go from point A to point B. If you don't have a way or some map or some goal to do how to reach your target, eventually you will get lost around. This is how I like to imagine it. So now that we saw how it works, I really wanted to... I can lose, although I don't like losing. I'm very competitive. But yeah, this will take a while. So I will lose just to show the last thing that I programmed into this game. If I cannot have a quick win. Yeah, as you can see, the AI is not really AI. I'll talk about this later. It's a very simple like routine. It's not even the highest difficulty, is it? Anyway, I will lose so that we can just go ahead. I just wanted to speak a bit about the creation progress before we go into the code and what I did and why. As always, the source code is in GitHub. It's in a public repository. You can find it. It's not really great code. So, yeah, this is what I want to show, that every time that you go back to the main menu, it shows you if you won or you lost. So, let's see now how I did this. First of all, I want to say something I know, because there are also some Pong examples in the demos of Godot. You can do this very easily by putting a collision shape around the paddles. and this handles the collisions, but I wanted to do some custom things, and I really wanted to see if I can do old school things in Godot, like I used to do when I was writing C++, like 20 years ago. So instead of doing these collision things, I did the collisions myself in code. It's not the right way to go in Godot, but this way I could do my stuff and memories. So the first thing a player sees is this menu. This menu has a label, as you can see, it's the white border thing, and then it has a label and 3 buttons, easy, medium, hard, with text. And it also has a hidden label, the result. So if we go into the code, which is this one, you see that it's very simple. Every time you press a button, the button passes on the difficulty, which is an integer. And then the referee, which is the main singleton, the global one, this is the referee.gd down here, right above my head here. Take it a bit higher here. So this singleton handles the game logic. It's the referee, whatever the name says. So what does it do? It's also the audio manager, so it chooses the difficulty, plays the sound, and then we call get3 change scene to file, which replaces the current 3 scene with this one, the play. The play is the main play area. So when it starts, when it's created, what it does, it checks the singleton for the delta score. The delta score is 0 at first, and every time a match ends, it's your score minus the CPU score. So if it's positive, it means you won. So you will see a green you won label. If it's red, it means you lost. So you will see a you lost label. If it's 0, it means that you just started the game for the first time and you will see nothing. By the way, this nothing is not achieved by showing and hiding the label. It is just achieved by having no text at all. It's always visible, but when you start it has no text. So you see it the first time you finish a match because it has text for the first time. Also, it's impossible to finish a match with 0 delta because someone will have won with at least 1 difference. So you don't need to debug for this to put a special case. So this is a very simple menu screen. So the play screen is this one. Also very simple, 2 paddles, the label with the score, and we have 1 paddle and it has a rectangle around it for the color. Initially I thought that there would be different colors. I tried, but I did not like it. Then I did it both white. I also thought of the paddles changing color the closer you are to victory. So it would start like from example white and it would go up to green by changing the hue, the RGB values, every time you go closer to 11. But I did not like that as well. I thought simpler is best, so I just kept them both white. The ball is a ball sprite, just a very small PNG that I did in Paint with a circle. And now let's see the code. The ball has its own code. This is the reset position, it puts it at the middle. I don't need to calculate because this game is made with a non-shaped, reshaped rectangle. So I always know the middle coordinates. I don't need to do height / divide 2, width divide 2. And also many things are based on this, that this is a non-resizable rectangle that the game runs on. For convenience, of course, it could be all generic and changeable. So this is the function that sets the initial velocity of the ball. It takes a 50% chance with a random generator to go left or right. It also has a 50% chance to go up or down. And then these are the 2 starting velocities, the horizontal and the vertical. I have done them so after a lot of experimenting for what felt better, so always experiment. The bottom line is, as I write in the comments, the horizontal velocity will always be between 300 and 600, and the vertical velocity will always be 0 to 600, but always less than the horizontal. I did that because when the vertical is more than the horizontal, you wait a lot because the ball goes like this. It doesn't feel very good. So my feeling was that the horizontal velocity must always be bigger so that the ball goes whatever angle, but horizontally. It doesn't do this and the players wait. So when you start the first time, this just resets the position in the middle of the screen. This function increases the speed depending on when you hit it on your paddle. So you can have less speed, the same speed, 10% more speed or 20% more speed. This is all depending on where you hit it. So this is a helper function that returns the middle point. I'm going through this fast because you can always, as I said, download and check it in your own computer, so you don't need this video to go very slow. Just if you want to see what I've done, clone the code and check from the video, pause the video and check in your code what I'm saying about, what I'm talking about. So, the physics process. As you know, the physics process runs at every tick. It has the time delta here. So what happens? As I say here, I try to always even in my normal job as well, I always try to have complete comments about everything that is important and everything that needs to remember. So we check for collisions with the walls up and down, we check if the ball scored, and then we check with collisions. So I check first if the ball scored, and then for collision, because before I had it the opposite way, and you could hit the ball and save a goal when it was already in, and that again didn't feel good. I mean, many decisions in gaming, as you know, are taken by what the producer deems as feeling good, and since I'm the producer in my games, it didn't feel good for me when I was scoring and the CPU after I scored was hitting the ball away. I did not like that at all. So this is what happened in these blocks of code. This is checks for the up and down wall by the Y. As I said, I could have just put collision objects everywhere that we wouldn't have to check anything. Please do that. This is just for my own reminiscence, I think is the correct English word. This checks for scoring. I guess you could check if it collides with a scoring line that you would have. Much easier than checking coordinates. And this checks for collision with the paddles the old way by checking if the coordinates are inside the paddle. This is all for the ball. So the right paddle has the initial position hard-coded. If it was generic, it would be like height minus, divide by 2 and width minus 20 to break it a little bit off the side, or width plus 20 for the left. This returns the middle point of the paddle, and at every tick, this is the A paddle, the right one, so this is the artificial intelligence code. So the only thing it does is that depending on the difficulty, it chooses if it will go to the ball or not. This is all. It can either choose every tick to go a little bit to the ball or not, and don't do anything. This is why it seems like it's trembling. I should have made an interpolation function or something like that, most probably. But this is the whole point. At every point, it says I will go or I won't go, and the possibility comes from the difficulty. So the left paddle is a player paddle. This is even easier. It doesn't have any AI. When you press up, it goes up. When you press down, it goes down. So simple. And we use the clamp to clamp it within the playing area. The clamp that actually crops a value to the minimum and maximum that we tell it. So this is the whole thing about the playing area and the menu area. And then the other only thing left, and the most important one, is the singleton that handles the game logic. It's only 100 lines, it's nothing big as well, because Pong is not a very complicated game. So what does this have? This have the score, delta score that is read by the label, I remind you. The difficulty, minimum and maximum. For these things, I always prefer to have it as generic as possible. The winning score, initially I had it 21, I found it very boring. The sweet spot for me was at 11. For someone else it could be at 5 or 15 or whatever. The difficulty modifier is how many percent it glows up every time you choose difficulty. The speed modifier, all these things were set after long hours of playing and playing and playing and getting what it feels best for me. It's not what it feels best for the whole world, but you have the source code, change it as you want. And this is why you must appreciate the work of producers and directors in games, because what they deem to be the best for them must also be the best for the majority of people for the game to sell, if it has no bugs. So, these are the sound effects, the 3 sound effects that I use. I don't know if they're the original ones, I just found them online, or if they are like modified or whatever. Just 3 MP3 beep beep beep. So initially we add the audio player. I don't know why we need to do that. I read that you have to, and indeed when I didn't have the line, the audio was not working. I was hoping that it would be automatic, but Godot has its own intricacies. So after I add the audio player, which is an audio stream player class instance, as you see here right above, it's a global function, variable. We have the end game function that ends the game. It calculates a delta, resets the score, and goes back to the main scene, the menu scene. This is called automatically when there is a score, and we'll see later, and when it reaches the winning score. The reset to difficulty changes the difficulty and resets the game. Choose difficulty, it's called by reset difficulty, and its exclusive job is to change the difficulty. You see, it sets the level from 1 to 3, so no matter if you call it like, this is defensive programming, even if you call it with 10 or 5, it will reset to 3, or if you call it with -1, it will reset to 1. So that there is no, even if you do a mistake in calling it, it will not affect, there will be a crashing or everything. You should always do, in my opinion, but you should always do defensive programming as much as possible when it doesn't affect the performance of your program too much. Because there are defensive programming techniques that can really slow down your program, and they should be avoided or done in another way. Difficulty is also done the same way. The speed modifier is also done the same way. This is a function that's not really needed, but yeah. I changed my programming style in Godot since this game. I did everything with get set like I used to do in Java, but in Godot some things are global and I just needed to get used to it, so right now I would not have this function. You can have it as, you know, maybe a good object-oriented technique or good practice, and maybe it will be easier to port to .NET or some other language if you have it like that. But really, I just needed to get used to things in Godot being non-object oriented. So before that, I had get set everywhere. You can also see this in my Doom game, my Doom Survivors. So this resets the score, this gets the score in a string. So this is what's shown on the label when you play. This is plays a sound, plays another sound, plays another sound. If a player score, changes the score. If a player score, changes the score. This is called from the ball program. Here you see. Wait a minute, I will find it. Check for scoring events here. This is why it's good to have comments. So if it scores, then it calls and changes the score. So the functions that change the scores are also the ones that check for winning. So it adds 1 to the score, and if you reach the winning score, then it ends the game. So as you can see, it's a very, very simple game. Very simple logic. It took me quite a while because, as I said, I was learning stuff, testing stuff. I must spend more than 20-30 hours playing just for the balancing of the speeds and the locations and everything else. I also tried a lot of things. I also wanted to try a lot of things. For example, for the AI, I had a lot of ideas. But in the end, I decided that I wanted to move to the next goal, which was the rogue dungeon crawler, and leave this on the side, leave like a complete game, playable on the side, but not with wow ideas. I also had ideas about adding power-ups, actually all the Arkanoid power-ups. I knew how to implement them. For example, I wanted the paddle enlargement power-up, a fire power-up, but you would only be able to fire like 1 or 2 bullets and destroy your opponent's paddle. That would be like instant victory if you could do it. A reverse ball power-up that you could only use once. A freeze power-up that you could only use once to freeze your opponent. A freeze ball power-up that you could only use once to freeze the ball. And a 3 balls power-up. I think that's all that I wanted to bring from Arkanoid. But as I said, in the end, I felt that I had learned what I wanted to learn from this. I had a playable game that was very faithful to the original, so I thought that I should close this goal, move to the next goal, learn more things as I'm doing right now that I record this video. When I finish with the rogue crawler, most probably I will do a video for that as well, but this is much more complicated. I mean, the code is much bigger than my Doom Survivor zone already, and I'm not even halfway. Anyway, that's all from me. As I said, the source code is in the comments. You can go check it out. If you have any questions, hit me up here or raise, I don't know, a GitHub issue or raise a GitHub PR, even better. Fix the code. And that's all from me. Bye and happy coding.